This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed. Finally, it's here, the new year, 2025. Happy New Year to everybody out there. We have been now online since about 3 months, but we have a lot of plans for the upcoming year, and this video is mainly about laying out what we want to do in the next 12 months in this channel. Point number one, we want, of course, to concentrate on presenting techniques from sword fighting. We have step by step built up a certain base for that. We have learned the drills, the first blocks and positions, the disarms. Now we want to go to the more complex side. We want to look at arm bars. We want to look at throwing techniques. We want to look more at moving in groups. Here we will also find, step by step, more overlap with the traditional martial arts. Because if we look, for example, at arm bars, that's something where Jiu-Jitsu or Aikido or other styles have a deep knowledge and can be involved in the learning process. We will therefore also explore some of these styles at a bit more depth in order to understand the basics of such techniques. We will try to have that in the same frame as so far, so new movements building up on already known ones and following symmetry patterns, left, right, top, bottom, 4 angles, and understanding mostly what happens to the incoming force that the attacker is providing us. By doing so, we stick to the biomechanical scientific frame as an access path to understand martial arts in general. Point number two, in order to be able to properly train sword fighting, we need proper and usable equipment. Different styles of sword fighting use different type of equipment, but we want to be more open in this aspect and also clarify that certain goods are good for training one specific aspect, while for training other aspects, this specific material might not be the best, but another one should be used. For example, a lot of traditional martial artists still train with wooden swords, but they train roughly with them. And for that, polypropylene weapons would be the much better choice. But it really depends on the context, which type of weapon, and then which product of that type is useful for a certain aspect. We have, for example, recognized that a lot of people don't like the PU foam swords that are used for cosplay. We can say they are useful for a lot of instances, but not for all. Therefore, we cannot expect from a product of that type to fulfill the aspects where the entire type is not really useful. Therefore, we want to continue making such dedicated and specific product reviews. As point number three, we will deal with exotic, unusual, and awkward appearing weapons. This is interesting from a biomechanical side, in the sense of how have they been used traditionally, how could they be used in an optimized biomechanical view, and why are these weapons awkward in the sense, why did they develop only in a certain specific cultural influence? There are more of these exotic weapons than you would think, and a lot of them don't get the attention that they deserve, because in a lot of cases they highlight specific needs that were historically relevant that we do not understand well today. As point number four, we will continue to deal with fantasy weapons. And as we can see from comments on some of our videos, we have to explain why it is worthwhile to deal with such weapons. First and foremost, there are people interested in this question. There's a lot of discussion going on how hypothetical weapons could be used effectively. Another interesting aspect is didactics, in the sense of you can introduce a fantasy weapon, people are surprised how strange and awkward some of these are, and then you can explain that they are based on existing weapons which are not well known and also a bit awkward. In other words, we can use that as a vehicle for sparking interest in unusual weapons. As a last point, it can be used for an thought experiment training. If we are facing self-defense situations, we will often use improvised weapons. Improvised weapons means that you will not have trained with these, but you will immediately have to use them in an effective way. Doing something like that for fantasy weapons trains you in this direction. And of course, after the last point, there's the very last point. It's simply fun and we like to do it. And we hope that you also have some fun watching us doing it. So, what you can already see is we want to do a lot. And that also means we need to speed up our publishing plan because otherwise we can only manage to have about 50 videos each year. So from January onwards, we will publish 2 videos each week so that we can make 100 videos or a bit more than 100 videos in order to bring all that content to you, the viewers. In some comments of earlier videos, people suggested already what they would like to see, and we have according stuff in preparation. But whenever you have an idea what we could test out or what we could look at, please feel free to add a comment and say, hey, why don't you try this and that the next time? We of course hope you like our ideas. Our goal is to bring you some inspiration and some fun. So we hope to see you around next time.